And I'm fiddling with the camera and adjusting everything, and right to the last minute. Boy, if you could see me before this thing starts, it's just a joke. It's, I look really orange, so I changed the color a little bit, and now I look less orange. Though there's that orange man, he's doing a bang up job, 250,000 new jobs this month. Anyway, just a joke. Let's go on. Five, four, three, two, one. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Glad you could join me today. Lots to talk about, of course. You know, and you may think that I prepare this over, many days, but the reality is I slam it together every morning fresh. So Tom made the deadline today. He doesn't always. Sometimes I get it at 10 or 11 and it doesn't get in the show, but today he did it. And so welcome us, a seed. I don't know if I pronounced it right. It's hard for me to read the little type on Periscope. Okay, so let's start with 7 types of LinkedIn requests. I've noticed we have blue shirts in common. Sometimes I invite people from the University of Wisconsin. One time I found somebody that had gone to junior high with me, and they didn't respond. They live out in Connecticut now. Do you have a few minutes to talk with a total stranger? Are you interested in agile digital disruptive blockchain? Yeah, right. Or what was the one that everybody was saying for a while? Yeah, something about change marketing or something. They come up with buzzwords every 10 minutes and think it's going to somehow catapult them to relevance. Well, it doesn't. Okay, I run a team that can help you with whatever it is you do. Yeah, I get a lot of those. I went from 1,500. It took me 15 years to get to 1,500. That's like one every 3 days on that rate. But it wasn't like that. It was like 5 in the first year. I When you first got on LinkedIn, you'd have to tell people what it was because there wasn't anybody on it. It's like having the first telephone or the first fax machine. Who do you call? Nobody else has one. And so when back in the ad agency days, it was so efficient to be able to send artwork to the client. We would give fax machines away, and they were $400 or $500, I think, at the beginning, back in the late '80s. Imagine that. I mean, you just can't even imagine it. But we would give them away just so the client would have one, and we could call it. All right. So LinkedIn was kind of like that in the beginning, and I was one of the first 50,000, and now so I had 1,500 after 15 years, and then I decided to get busy, and I had really gone after it in 2012, but this was about 2015 or 2017, and I started inviting people to speeches I was giving, and I targeted around where the speech was, and I went from 1,500 or 15,000, no, 1,500 leads or connections um, to 4,500 in about 4 months. So it's possible. But what Tom's point is it's too bad people only think about their network when they need something from it. And this was a really good one. 2012. Since you're a person I trust, which is what LinkedIn used to say, I wanted to invite you to join my network on LinkedIn. And apparently, there's a story about Frank Chimera who said you could actually add that as a caption to any New Yorker cartoon, and the whole thing went viral. And the story struck a widespread chord because so much of professional networking is shallow and random, and too often focused on taking rather than giving. Yeah, it's kind of a lead generation. But this one I thought was even better. My name is Bob, but I'm more than that. I'm a personal brand. My core brand is authenticity. My product is thought leadership that I promote as content all day long to followers influenced by my platform. I just need a name for the order next. It says boob. That's great. Anyway, we can't focus on that. Okay, so Melissa Ward had an she has a what were they thinking? And oftentimes these are like about colossal mistakes. And so when I first saw that, it's been up for a couple of days. When I first saw that, I skipped it because I didn't want to hear Melissa talk about the Snickers ad, which I picked as my own favorite of the Super Bowl. And I thought, well, I don't want to hear her tell me how it wasn't any good. But she says the Clio jurors who selected this, they selected the Snickers ad as the winner. Now, Clio, that's an advertising award, and for those of you in direct marketing, you may never have heard that there are such things. But I hadn't till I went to work for the ad agency, and they're prestigious, and so they pick the winner, and so we landed on the same winner, which just shows you that it's worthwhile watching because you would have heard it days in advance. But what I didn't know, and this is why I liked Melissa's article, what I didn't know is Snickers right after the game posted this one. You're welcome, Kansas City. Snickers fixed the world. Now, it was a great game for me because it's a come-from-behind win, and I was cheering for the Midwest team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and I have some connection to UMKC where I was a lecturer there. And but how funny is that? But what I didn't know is they've got follow-ups, and here it comes.
Hey, lady, how'd your date going?
Well, Luis Guzman, he didn't order by saying I'm gonna do the Caesar. So that's pretty good.
The Snickers hole is working.
Okay, so the Snickers hole is working, and we have this one also. Oops, where did the other one go? The other one's in here someplace. We got the.
Hey, college admissions guy, how's it going?
Well, I haven't been offered a bribe by any B-list celebrities on behalf of their underachieving offspring, so that's good.
The Snickers hole is working.
So, kudos to Snickers. That was great. I have to say, I think that was great. But anyway, maybe you don't think so. But the follow-ups are actually tying it together. And the nice part is you can do 15-second spots, which are harder with the other one because it has kind of a story arc to it. Okay, some court kicked back the net neutrality repeal. So the net neutrality was passed in the Obama era, and it was repealed, I think, by the FTC, and it went to court, and they said, yeah, we're not going to overturn the repeal of net neutrality. Now, I studied it. I talked about it. I don't understand it. I have to say, both sides said, oh, this is the greatest, or this is terrible, depending on where they were. So I'm not going to tell you whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But my take on it was, gee, of all the things in my life, the internet works pretty well. A friend of mine went on a safari in Africa, and he showed a picture of the URL over this like open air, I don't know what you call it, general store, a dump. But they had their URL big. That was their sign, like Safari Cafe or Safari Grocery dot Kenya or something. And, I went to Mexico, and we were going through Mexico, kind of out in the back country, and all the kids, have their smartphones. And this was a few years ago. So I thought to myself, the internet works better than a lot of things. Maybe we shouldn't mess it up. And and when it went into effect and when it went out of effect, I have to say I didn't notice it at all. Either way. So I think it wasn't the biggest thing in life, but we're gonna sally forth with free enterprise, and your internet provider will do whatever they want to you. But G5 is gonna open up the competition considerably, I think, because you're going to be able to get the kind of streaming speed through the air that you're getting through your cable provider, and that changes that massively increases competition. So it may not change everything, but it's going to change that, I think. So Facebook, and now we use the Google. We go from the Android phone right to our TV set. and I don't know quite how it works, but you hit a button and it retransmits. So you can already do it, but it's going to be better because you can do your whole house and things like that. Okay, Facebook and Twitter refuse to ban Trump's deep fake of Pelosi's speech rip moment. Now, this is an interesting one. It's interesting because of the title to me. You say, why? Well, first of all, the news story from Carlene indicts it right off the bat. It's like, this is so clearly a deep fake that it should be banned, which is one side of the picture. Now, I listened to a follow-up interview of Mike Pence, and he said, and this was minutes after the maybe half an hour or an hour after the State of the Union, and he said he was talking with the family. I think the family that came back from Afghanistan, or where the dad came back from deployment as a surprise, and he said that the dad said, unaided, she ripped up our story. You know, it was either that or one of the other poignant stories, but that message was actually real. Now the editing obviously inserted the rip part into the scene where it didn't happen, but it actually told the story of how the participants, the people whose stories were told, felt. And this is the problem. And I'm not defending it, I'm not defending Facebook. I'm not defending the video, but all video is like this. All video editing. My daughter was a Fox News morning news editor for a while. She couldn't stand it. And she said, you look at 4 hours of body parts in the Middle East, and you got to clip out something that doesn't show anything major, but gives the story. And she said it just tore her up to watch this every morning. And she said, if we needed a video piece and we didn't have a piece of video, and there was something from 20 years earlier or 3 years earlier or in a totally different place, we would use it because it told the story. So, again, I don't know if the Pence interview was legitimate or not, but I could understand how the participants felt that way, where they had been honored especially, and it was dishonored. And in defense of Nancy, she said, there were so many inaccuracies. Now, I did watch the Washington Post. I do watch a lot of background. I did watch the Washington Post fact check, and they took issue with Trump saying it was the greatest economy in history. And one of the alternative greatest economies they pointed to was under Ulysses S. Grant. Now, there may be something about Ulysses S. Grant. After the Civil War, it was a boom. I can say that. But there weren't as many people employed, and they did not have Instagram or cars or buses. One of the big things that fueled the post-Civil War economy was so many train tracks had been blown up that the entire United States could rebuild their train track infrastructure and use the same size tracks. Because what had happened as this thing grew out, if you wanted to build a special track from, point A to B, from Cincinnati to Dayton or something, and there wasn't one, you could use a slightly different size. This happened a little bit when the Channel went in. The tracks were the same size, but the platforms, the trains were wider I think in the UK than in France. And so France had to tear up their platforms and make them just a little farther from the track, or the trains would get ripped up. So in the pre-Civil War, if you owned that piece of track, you could force every car to be unloaded and reloaded, the cargo into a into a freight car that fit your track, and you could own that company. So it was a way to double dip. But after the Civil War, because the tracks were all torn up, everybody decided, let's make the tracks the same so we can truck from Chicago to Cincinnati and then unhook the cars and take it right to Dayton. You probably didn't know that, did you? Anyway, so yeah, Washington Post, the Ulysses S. Grant economy and the Eisenhower economy may have been, those were two they cited, and Clinton. Those may have been better, but not as many people are working. And so it's another one of these cases where there's a defensible argument, maybe both directions. I'm not suggesting that the Washington Post is wrong, but they're looking at a different metric, right? They're not looking at total employment as an example, right? And so it's defensible both ways, and to call that a lie is indefensible, in my opinion, okay? But anyway, this is the problem with basically all the news, and the deep fake initiative by Facebook, that's not what they're after. They're after someone taking my video, which you can do with only 30 seconds of video, and putting words into my mouth that I never said. That's the biggest danger. It's not about spurious editing, because all news does spurious editing. So, hope you got a lot out of that. Oh, and I should say down here, Twitter dodged the whole thing by saying, and again here, CNBC said it does not make it appear that a person said something they didn't say or did something they didn't do. So Nancy did actually tear the paper, and apparently those people actually were hurt by that in a way that video suggests very strongly in a short format. Twitter said, well, our rules don't go into effect till March. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. Have a great day. Bye-bye.